Let's go out to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, where this caller thinks that Baker Mayfield should not be run out of town.
Hi, I'd like to say something about Baker Mayfield. This is James Seiler. I've been a fan for 50 years, since 1970-71. And since the Browns came back, the year that Baker Mayfield had last year, up until he was our quarterback, the year he had last year would have been a great year for a quarterback on the Browns since they came back, except for that one catch lightning in a bottle year that Derek Anderson had. The guy, he shouldn't have played hurt all year. It hurt the team. It hurt him. They should have just put Case Keenum in. But it seems like the journalists are trying to run the guy out of town. I'm looking at this thing on YouTube right now that says, is Baker Mayfield a trade asset for the Browns? Cleveland Browns on Cleveland. I really wish they'd stop trying to run the guy out of town. I'm tired of the negative journalism. Thank you very much. You have a great day.
Okay, I always say this when it comes to the negative journalism. I hear it, I understand it, but some people, that's how they go ahead, they report that. That's just how it goes. But when it comes to me, at least, I've been somebody who have long said the fact that, you saw the great play from Baker in Game 1 before the injury in Game 2, and even all that you saw throughout 2020 as well in that second half of the year when he finally understood the offense. I think that the injury, that was hampering him, a little bit mentally. But, let's bring in D-Man, Dennis Maniloff. And D-Man, looking at this, do you think that Baker Mayfield, how long of a leash do you think he's going to have going into 2022 when, the injury was one side of it, but at the same time just kind of juggling it in between? I think that it's a big question heading into 2022, especially at the quarterback position.
Yeah, let me first address the voicemail Truth Reason. We always appreciate anyone who calls the voicemail Truth Reason, and thank that gentleman for his take. I will say this: yeah, there might be headlines written about possible movement for Baker, but that doesn't constitute trying to run a guy out of a city, because that happens in all NFL cities during what, unfortunately, for those of us who love the NFL, is a very long off season. It has to be that way, but you can't play too many games and the human body's going to break in half. Another thing, too, about Baker, when you point out that this year he was one of the worst quarterbacks statistically in the NFL, that's just stating fact. That's not trying to run him out of town. So when you talk about a player in a negative light, you aren't necessarily trying to get rid of him. And I happen to think that the best realistic option for Cleveland at quarterback next year is a healthy, revitalized, rejuvenated Baker Mayfield with a revamped wide receiver room, specifically a legit number one in there, and a coaching staff that's willing to stretch out its offensive game plan a little bit and create some more downfield opportunities. That, to me, is the most realistic option for the Browns in 2022. So I want Baker Mayfield to come back and succeed. And he will be playing for a lot of money, because there's no way in my mind the Browns are going to sign him before season 5, especially coming off of what he's coming off of. So they're going to make him prove it one more time, and this would be a very good, the most opportune time for Baker Mayfield to prove it would be 2022. Now, Mac, you'd mentioned the leash. How short is the leash? It really depends on who they bring in, to back him up. Are they going to stay with Keenum, or are they going to bring in somebody who legitimately could be a number one, and they want that guy to rattle, Baker's cage or get the most out of Baker in the run-up to the season? Do they really want that? I'm not sure that any number one worthy quarterback is going to want to sign here, knowing that the Browns are still having hopes for Baker Mayfield, because then that guy will be saying, well, what kind of a competition am I going to be involved in? Do I have a realistic chance to win the job? So I'm thinking that they go with a backup who isn't necessarily going to compete with Baker. He'll be more of a Case Keenum type.